Hi, guys. Happy Friday. Welcome back to WagerTalk TV for First Pitch. I'm Andrew McGinnis. Join me today, mid-major Matt, Brian Leonard, and, of course, Dave Koken. I want to go around the horn. We'll start with you, Matt. Happy Friday. We'll be having our Prop It Up show at 4 p.m. Eastern, but I want to get your thoughts on yesterday's games. We'll do a little bit of recapping first, and then we'll get into some of these into the games shortly after.
Well, unfortunately, I went 1-2. The Dodgers game didn't go the way I thought. I actually went with the first 5 over for the Dodgers because Bryce Wilson had so much problems the first time through the lineup. I figured the Dodgers bats were hot. Of course, they weren't, so that was a loss. But the Randy Arozarena train continues. I mean, I've hit about, I don't even know how many. I think I've missed once with the total bases over on Arozarena so far. And there's actually sports books now where it's plus 128. Probably not good for my sales, but that's one of my plays today is until he starts cooling off. The over for the total bases for Randy Arozarena just keeps coming in.
I mean, I guess since we're on the topic of sales and of plays, what can we grab from you for the weekend?
Well, there's going to be plenty of football plays. I'm working on it now, and unfortunately, I know Dave's going to say the same thing. I was just about to put a play up in the UTEP Southern Miss game, and unfortunately, it literally got postponed as I was hitting send. So just got to reevaluate a couple things. Do have a free play up in the Missouri State game coming up tomorrow, but other than that, the rest of my college football will be up later on tonight.
Brian, how are you, man? Good to see you.
I'm doing well. I passed yesterday, but I enjoyed the game. I've got 3 NFL plays up right now, and I'm just about to write up my third of 3 college football plays. It's been an interesting week based on the line moves and the COVIDs. I keep, similar to the other guys, I was just about to write up Charlotte, and the Charlotte game is canceled. So I'm sure I'm glad I'm not putting these out on a Monday, I'll tell you that.
It's not getting easier, Brian, that's for sure. Today, I decided to I've always dabbled in a couple different other hockey leagues, but I decided today I'm not going to be giving anything to clients for a very long time with this league, but I'm going to start researching the KHL, the European Hockey League over there. And right away, what's the first thing I look at? Which teams are having the most problems with COVID? You know, that's almost a new form of handicapping, Dave, and I know that you can definitely attest to that.
Yeah. I've already had 3 plays that I posted this week get canceled in college football. So I think I've still got 2 plays up that as of now are being played. And I've got, for my ALCS guys, they should have a nice 3-point middle working on Miami minus 10.5 and Pitt plus 13.5. So I'm going 1-1 there at worst. And, you know, that's for the all-access guys. That's why, I do like to send stuff out early because we still get line value. I mean, Southern Miss is postponed, but we all had Southern Miss minus 4.5, and the line was 6.5. So we're doing real well as far as that goes. There's nothing much you can do about it. I went 1-0 on yesterday. It was a KBO play, and I'm 1-0 so far today, and that was a KBO play as well, which barely hung on. Looked like an easy winner and got real dicey in the bottom of the 5th, but a line drive got caught and the total stayed under, and that's a winner. I don't know what I'm going to have up for the weekend. I don't know.
Hey, Dave, it's my job to ask, but you don't have to give me an answer. It's my job to ask.
And more good news, by the way. Bill Foley, the owner of the Golden Knights, has stated that he doesn't think the NHL season will start till February. And that makes perfect sense because I will tell you they are not going to start a season until they can sell out the buildings again.
Yes.
And neither will the NBA. So, if things don't straighten out, we might not have basketball or football or basketball or hockey till the spring. We'll have to wait and see what happens. Anyway, outside of that, life sucks.
Yeah, on the topic of that, Dave, a lot of players actually in the NHL are being loaned out to other teams across Europe and different parts of the world just so they can keep fresh and get some workouts.
Well, guess what? They have the disease over there too. Although I guess I don't know. Maybe it's. Well, I have no idea. I don't pay much attention to it, so maybe it's less or worse. I don't know.
How's that New Zealand Hockey League going? We can all go over there.
I have my doubts as to whether they'll play at all. Because we saw what happened to minor league baseball this year. They just shut it down completely. And I would think the same thing's going to happen with minor league hockey. They're not going to pay these guys to play, and they're definitely not going to pay those guys to play. They're not going to pay the NHL players to play in empty buildings. They're sure as shit not going to pay minor league players to play in empty buildings.
Well, here in Canada, the OHL and the WHL got shut down, but the Quebec League obviously has some teams from Quebec and some teams from the Maritimes where I live, Dave. And the issue is that where I am right now, it's fine. There's not that many cases. It's manageable, but it's the same conference as Quebec, which obviously they can't be, traveling from one place to the next. So anyway, it's rough everywhere. We won't get too much into that, but obviously it's been frustrating for all of us from a handicapping perspective.
And by the way, I'm never doing a show again without the shades because, looked like it was going to be a fun weekend. And I did the shows yesterday without the sunglasses on, and look what's happened since. Everything's getting postponed. It's my fault. By the way, I do want to quash a rumor, an ugly rumor that I started.
Okay.
That after the Colts announced they were closing their facility yesterday, that Phillip Rivers got intercepted on the way out of the facility. That didn't happen. Okay.
Rodney Dangerfield, you're not, Dave.
What?
I said Rodney Dangerfield, you're not, Dave.
No, Rodney. No, nobody's Rodney Dangerfield. And at this point, I'm glad I'm not because he's been dead for like 15 years. I
just the same way that
not be dead.
That I think Matt was saying kind of something similar to what I'm going to say, and I'm not going to get on here and vent. I had a great MLB season, regular season. Didn't release that many MLB 5% plays at all. I did lose mine last night, guys. It was a team total for the Dodgers. And I'm not going to sit here and say they didn't have their chances. There were some chances. The clutch hitting has not been there for this Dodgers team. We'll get into it when we get to break down their game. But what I'm noticing, it's just been 1 or 2 innings with a bunch of runs, and they can't spread it out throughout numerous. However, I did have a golf winner matchup play for round 1. So getting a little bit back into that, Dave, having a little more time to research those, and that's been fun to watch. So, and for myself,
I'm ahead in my two. I'm ahead in my 2 matchups.
Awesome.
So, mine are always full tournament because it's. And by the way, golf is talk about a pain in the ass. It is really difficult finding widely available matchups.
Yes.
So I'm trying to do my best.
One matchup at one book is not going to be the same as one matchup at the next.
Or they won't even have it up.
Yeah, definitely. As far as
anyway,
for me, for plays I do have up right now, it's just a 5% UFC play up for tomorrow night. I had a 14-2 4% run. So I figured it's time for a 5%. And this one I really, really did like, and it was worthy of 5%. So you can grab that. And I didn't want to forget to mention this, guys, before we start off. Obviously, these 5% are backed by 150% wager bucks guaranteed. So any of you guys in the comment section are viewing this show, of course, you guys all know how Twitter is. The response you get, you lose one pick, you get people coming at you. Use the wager bucks on my UFC play tomorrow night. It's a 5% play. It's the exact same cost as yesterday's play, and we'll get right back in the win column. So I want to make sure everyone knows that your account should be credited with those wager bucks, and we'll get that just out of the way to make sure people can kind of get a bounce back victory here. Brian, we're going to start with you. Astros, Rays, what are your thoughts here? Obviously, 2 closeout potential games here, Valdez and Snell. The first question I want to ask you, because this was kind of what was floating around social media last night, is this price too cheap here on the Rays?
It's interesting. As I was watching that game yesterday, Houston gets that victory, and I started thinking, I go, you know what? Houston very well could have already won this series. They've had a few breaks go their way. But I kind of like Tampa Bay here. We take a look at how these teams are doing. Both teams are throwing a lefty. Tampa Bay is 4th in baseball with a WRC plus of 121 against lefties. Houston's in the lower half of the league. They're number 20 with a 94. So they're 6% worse than than an average baseball team against lefties. My only concern anytime you throw Snell out there, especially against Valdez, is he's had a habit of giving up home runs. He's given up 10 home runs in 50 innings this year, whereas Valdez has only given up 5 in over 70. That's always a concern, especially when we've seen in these playoffs that basically, other than the Atlanta Braves yesterday, teams are scoring off the home run. In fact, I think all 3 runs that Tampa scored yesterday were all solo home runs. So you always have to take a look at how these starting pitchers and the guys coming out of the bullpen are able to keep the ball in the stadium. I think that's a little bit of advantage for Houston. But I prefer Tampa Bay here. The line's come down a little bit since the last time I looked at it. I was bordering on if I was going to have a play. But I am going to have a play, and I'll be using Tampa here. One of the things that I've talked about all along is how Tampa finds a way to win these games. Extra innings 4-3, 1-run games 16-7. Houston's been just the opposite. Extra innings 2-7, 1-run games 12-15. So it comes down to the bullpen. I like Tampa here, and I think the season ends for the Houston Astros, which would probably make at least 31 teams happy in that regard. So I think Tampa wins this.
Well, Dave, yesterday on the show, I talked about the trend of unders with this series and actually these teams in general, besides a couple games. And I do like it tonight. I didn't actually end up betting it yesterday. I touched on it a little bit. But for the point that Brian mentioned, we got a George Springer home run, Correa, Choi, all these homers looking at the box score here, and a lot of them solo home runs. And I understand. And ever since that interview that we had, Dave, with the Korean baseball reporter talking about the 3-step approach, these guys are swinging for the moon. I'm frustrated as a guy that had the Dodgers and the bases are juiced and they won't even go for a base hit. It's what the style of baseball seems to be these days. Yeah. And I think that actually, you'd think it'd be the opposite, but personally, I'm noticing in this series that actually benefits the under because these solo shots are happening consistently. And then when they do have a guy on second, maybe they'll try and bring him in. But with a total of 8 here, Snell and Valdez on the mound, I like the under.
Well, I mean, it is a 3 true outcomes game now. Walk, strikeout, homer. Teams can't manufacture runs anymore. It's not really, honestly, it's not really good baseball. It's fun to watch. I mean, the games are close, and that's exciting. But, fundamentally, the athletes are better than they ever were. I don't think there's any argument about that. They're bigger, stronger, faster. They're not as good at baseball players as their predecessors in many ways. And we really see it in base running, which is a lost art, and it shouldn't be. It's one of the easiest aspects of the game, and it's amazing how many bad base running blunders we see on a regular basis. Anyway, as far as tonight goes, I made the line Tampa 140, so it's right about where it's supposed to be. I think this is coming down to the last few innings, and whoever manages the bullpen better, and I have a tendency to think that will be Cash. And he does have his 2 big guys available tonight. Alvarado is going to be good for the 8th inning. Castillo will be good for the 9th inning if necessary. So I would look at Tampa, but I'm not enamored with the price enough to actually bet the game. Might do something with it in game.
Matt, I want to ask you first of all just about some strikeout props. Is there anything that really appeases you in this one? Because I know you mentioned yesterday, I saw you tweeting about just what we've seen in this series alone and what we've seen out of these Astro batters.
Well, so this is and we've talked about it on Prop It Up about having different books and having access to different places because widely available right now, Blake Snell's strikeout prop is 4.5. And on FanDuel, it's 5.5. And look, you're going to have to swallow some juice there, and it's actually somewhat of a key number here. Going back to September 21st, that was the last time the Astros struck out more than 5 times against the starting pitcher. Marco Gonzalez actually got him 6 times. Now, there were several times it was 5, and Blake Snell, I believe, only had 2 the first time. But if it's 4.5, I don't really. There's obviously not as much of a cushion there. 4.5 means 4, as opposed to 5.5. You get that extra strikeout. So that's where I think you should shop around. Also, if you shop around on DraftKings Sportsbook, Randy Arozarena to get 1 hit tonight is -139. He's had hits in every game except for 2. If you want to take him to score a run, I'm scrolling down real quick, so give me a second. It's +167. If you want him to get an RBI tonight, it's +225. So to me, look, I've already said it, and I've already given out my one play for this game. It's a Randy Arozarena over 1.5 total bases. I'm going to keep playing it till it loses, especially at plus money. I think this is a good live betting situation. If you want to get past Framber Valdez, who's been very kind to me, you know that the Rays, and Nick Anderson said last night, he is available tonight, so he is going to go. And much like what Dave said, the best arms are going to be available. Let's say the game's really tight or close, and you get past the starting pitchers and you're lined up better with the Rays. Maybe it's a good live betting situation on the Rays. Heck, even if they're down 1-0, you know that those big bullpen arms in the back end are going to keep that score where it is. So maybe it's a live betting situation towards the Rays later on.
Matt, I wanted to ask you, and I know this is, sorry, Brian, is there anything that really sticks out for you as far as strikeout props being too high in these playoffs? I mean, even with a guy like Kershaw, with the talent that he has, that was 6.5 for him last night, and we saw a decent start out of him. Then we see him get a little bit banged up, and boom, he's out of the game, ends up with 4 Ks.
Well, so the Framber one is 5.5. And Framber's been really good for all the shows that I've been on here. It seems like he's been pitching, and I've been taking his over. And he had 8 the last time out. But one thing that's concerning here is a couple times this season when Framber's seen a team a second time, his stats have gotten worse. Case in point, the Angels, he gives up an unearned run the first time. Second time, he gives up 4 earned runs. Third time, he gives up 8 runs. There's a couple of other teams. And so there was just a bit of a concern in terms of how is he going to adjust as a young pitcher against a lineup like this? I trust the Rays in this situation, so I lean to the over for Framber Valdez. But I mean, it's a high enough number; it's probably going to keep me away.
I don't do a lot with props, Matt, but you would think this year, well, to the last few years, now that you're playing runs, hits, errors, over unders, that's got to be so much different now than it was back when teams were trying to create runs, opposed to guys hitting home runs now. Because if you're worried about a game possibly going over, maybe you want to play on the run, hits, errors.
Yeah, and the thing with that is, I mean, as you said, and as Dave said, we're getting a lot of solo homers. Well, that doesn't do anything. I mean, it gives you a run and it gives you a hit. So there are times where you kind of have to balance, like, hey, look, I think that, last night I thought Bryce Wilson was going to get touched up. Of course, he gives up the 1 run and the 1 hit. So the runs, hits, and errors probably would have been in the mix for me. But obviously it wouldn't have done well because Bryce Wilson only gave up that 1 hit. So, I mean, it's something you have to worry about when it comes to totals and the solo home runs. Whereas if you think there's going to be a lot of hits and there's 2 good lineups, then you're going to take the runs, hits, and errors over.
Some of all, I want to just give a quick shout out to all the guys in the chat box. Seems like it's very active today. Hope you guys all are having a good Friday and have had some good luck this weekend. Obviously, we're not having good luck with some of our games getting canceled, at least on this panel, and a lot of college guys that are betting. It's been a pretty tough time, but a lot of usual guys in here in the chat box. And anyone talking about that 5% loss I had yesterday, like I said, grab that 5% UFC for tomorrow. Use the wager bucks. Those are definitely there in your account. Dave, like you said, it was interesting. I like how you said that. It's not bad baseball, but it's a different style of baseball. But the entertainment factor is.
I think it is bad. For me, it is bad baseball because I'm very much. Look, I'm a guy who likes to see. I guess you can call it old school. I want to see all the aspects of the game.
I'm the same
way.
I
don't want to see. I don't enjoy just seeing guys get up there and have literally they have the same swing for every pitch they see.
Yeah, exactly,
it's the same swing. If it happens to be in their happy zone, they hit it, and otherwise they swing and miss.
I'm right there with you. I'm exactly right there with you. And the funny thing is, I know I'm young compared to a lot of people part of WagerTalk or in general, but I feel the exact same way about basketball. That's why I always say, Dave, the game is ruined. There's no such thing as textbook basketball anymore, and it's the same thing with baseball now. It's always a 3-pointer, and it's always a home run. It can't be just a basic play.
The best prediction I ever made. It is the single best prediction I have ever made in my life, and I still believe it to be true, was when they introduced the 3-point shot in the NBA and then brought it into college basketball. In the NBA, it was all right. It was still a long shot, but when they put it in college basketball, I said, this is the end of the game. The game will never be the same, and it will become, for me, virtually unwatchable. And that's what happened. I actually have trouble sitting through any basketball game now because nobody runs any offense. It's all send it into the paint, toss it. If there's nothing there, toss it back out for a 3-point shot. It stinks. And I will tell you this, I don't care. You can argue all you want, but again, same thing. The players are more athletic, in better shape, able to do things that guys of yesteryear couldn't do athletically. They'd get their ass kicked in an actual basketball game. The only sport where technique has really improved is football. Yeah. Football is played at a higher level now. It is by far the best sport in terms of the game, the athletes improving their technique. The wide receivers are unbelievable in the NFL now, the things they can do athletically.
But I will argue that, Dave. It's softer.
You're going to argue that?
I'm going to argue that one thing about the NFL it's softer. I agree with you that it's the best league that's actually improved the skill.
Well, that's because they had to put some rules in for the safety. You know, you got guys dying at ridiculously young ages from head trauma and related diseases. So I can't argue against the safety precautions that have been put in. But in terms of the sophistication level of the players, the game plans, and the athletic endeavors of the guys involved, it's way better. It's phenomenal. It gets better every year, both at the college and the NFL level. It's great. The other sports are going backwards.
Yeah, I do play.
No, not hockey. Hockey's doing fine too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do some play-by-play in here in Canada for basketball in college, and it's the same thing. They actually run plays. Same thing with college basketball in the States. It's actually textbook basketball. The coaches actually have a role on the team. In the NBA, Steph Curry has changed it by actually just passing out an open layup.
No, I don't agree with you at all in college basketball.
Well, more than the NBA. More than the NBA.
I don't. They shoot threes. They shoot threes at a ridiculous rate. Nobody. They pick and roll. If you can find me a pick and roll in a college basketball game, I want to see that because it's basically obsolete.
Yeah, either way, though, I agree with you about the NFL. But the reason why I tried to segue that into it was because of this Dodgers game. Obviously, we've seen this team. It's either home run or bust. It's either a big inning or nothing inning. And we talked about momentum yesterday. That was kind of the story of the show. And I was definitely a part of that, Dave. But I'll throw it to you. I mean, did you guys see when the camera panned over to Mookie Betts after his horrible at-bat? This guy looked depleted. He looked like he was down. And now we're seeing a team minus 225 here, Dave.
Yeah, but the problem is, I think it's going to be Tomlin for the Braves, and Tomlin and a lot of bullpen guys because he's not going to do what Bryce Wilson did last night. I can't line up with the Braves here. I think the line's ridiculous. Okay, I mean the Braves shouldn't be this big of an underdog in any game against any team. It's as simple as that. They're just too good a baseball team to be this much of a dog. But I can't back Tomlin. I made the game 170, assuming that it's Tomlin for the Braves and Dustin May for the Dodgers. But listen, if this is a competitive game after 4 innings, Dodgers better look out because the guy in the Atlanta bullpen is pushing the right buttons, and the guy in the Dodgers dugout, I meant dugout instead of bullpen. The guy in the Dodgers dugout just can't do it. I don't know why. Last night, I'm sitting. I had no interest in the game financially, so I'm just watching the game, and it's like Kershaw's done. You better get him out of there. And he left him in too long, and then Gratterall came in, and he was all over the place. It just seems whatever Roberts does in the postseason, it backfires. And there's not a chance I'd lay that price with the Dodgers tonight.
Yeah, Brian, I wouldn't either. I would definitely not lay that price. And you look at Roberts, and I love, just because I did a lot of, I went to school for radio and television. I love looking at the way that they decide to pan to certain players, coaches. And when they pan to Roberts, after he sends somebody out and they're getting lit up, the look on his face is just regretful.
Yeah, I said all along, you can't lay $2 with anybody in the playoffs here, especially a team that's 8-1 in the playoffs. They're the home team in this game, and you're making them a $2 underdog. I'm sad to hear that Dave thinks Tomlin's going to get the start. It may save me a few bucks, but I like Atlanta here, but I don't want any part of Tomlin. Tomlin's a guy who gives up a lot of home runs. And of course, we know the way the game is played nowadays that the Dodgers can unload on him. But I will be looking for the bullpen to get involved here. And once the Atlanta bullpen gets involved, I will be playing Atlanta on the live line, depending on, obviously, the game situation. But there's no way I could back the Dodgers here. I talked about this a few days ago when the Dodgers was down 2-0. There's so much pressure on this team based on their payroll, based on being in a big city, based on the amount of terrific players they have. If they don't win the World Series this year, there's going to be a shakeup, and Roberts is the only one gone.
I agree.
This is major. So you got so much pressure on these guys. And you mentioned Mookie Betts. He played in Boston. He's very familiar with a lot of pressure. Dave knows as well as anybody that the press in New York and Boston are just terrible if somebody's in a slump. But I'm going to be looking to play Atlanta here as the game goes on. With Tomlin starting, I can't put my money up ahead of time. But we'll see how it plays out.
It's a free roll for Atlanta because they're up 3-1, so there's no need for them to start Fried on short rest. They've got him for Game 6. Braves are in great shape in the series.
Brian, so let me ask you: is that just basic handicap on the win in general, or is it yesterday on how the Braves won?
No, it's not on how the Braves won. It's just when you have teams like somebody talked about earlier in the week about how these teams played in the regular season, who they played. I think it might have been Steve was talking about the matchups, and he said, he goes, Atlanta's got a better record against winning teams.
Yeah.
Well, you wouldn't know that unless you pay attention to the show or you're actually going in and doing some actual handicapping. But, the people look at it and they say, well, the Dodgers were the best team in baseball all season long, and now they got their backs to the wall. You got to expect them to come out. Well, baseball is different than baseball's not a physical game like football, or if you're playing the NBA basketball and you got like a real physical center like a Shaq or something. Baseball is a finesse game. And sure, they hit a lot of home runs, but being really fired up for a game doesn't help you in baseball. There's many times the pitchers go out there and they really want to do well, and they come out and they just lay an egg. And that's why the first inning is so important when you're handicapping baseball. There's certain guys that can take that pressure. There's certain guys that can't. And we saw it the last 2 days with the two Braves young pitchers. One came into the game and got rocked, and the other one, which I don't think any of us expected much out of the starter yesterday, and he was just terrific.
Oh, he sure was.
I would actually go back to the over here, because if you look at it, every game is a new game. The way I look at it in baseball, every game's a new game. And like you said, you don't take into account really momentum as much and how fired up you can be, because it's not a team sport. You can't make an impact with a big hit or anything like that. And I think if you look at that game where the Dodgers lost 8-7, up until the final inning, they were getting blown out. So then we kind of factored in, was there some late momentum there moving into the next game? Well, what happened? 15-3 the following. So, the way I look at this one, hey, they might have gotten throttled again last night, but it's a brand new day. It's a brand new game. And I think that generally, once again, it's going to be either the people that like the bounce back theory or the people that are saying, hey, it's over. So I try to not be that guy that just completely says, oh, wow, the Dodgers got shelled and they couldn't hit, because if there's ever a team, Matt, to just completely right away the next day bounce back, they've proven it. It's this Dodgers team.
Yeah, but at what point does it creep into their heads if they can't hit Tomlin? I mean, when you look at baseball games, especially during the regular season, you like to try and project what the pitching lineup's going to be. I mean, I don't know how the Braves are going to divvy things up, but you think Tomlin's going to go 2 or 3.
That's it.
I mean, and then what? And then it's, do they go to Kyle Wright because he hasn't thrown that many pitches? It would be essentially a bullpen day. Do they go to Matzik? Do they go to Erlin? Do they get? I don't want to have to try and figure it out. So this could be the perfect live betting situation when you get past the uncertainty, and maybe the Braves are leading, or maybe they're tied, or maybe they're down 1, and you take the Braves live because all right, inning 6, 7, 8, 9, this is what they're going to go to. So to me, there's just too much uncertainty here, and the price is nuts. I mean, it's ridiculous. If there was literally almost anybody other than Tomlin, I'd blindly take the Braves run line here, because I would think that it's just good value here. But I can't trust Tomlin, and I can't trust 9 innings of uncertainty. So give me like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm seeing a lot of places that are holding. They're not putting up a line. There's some blank spaces on my Don Best screen right now. So if this is one of those deals where Snitker's not going to say who's starting for a while, you might not have anything widely available.
You know what I was thinking? I know Fried's on a limited, 3 days rest or whatever. But if they did come in with Fried right now and you locked in like a Chris,
oh boy,
it may be worth it just to take the plus money right now, just in case they do something crazy like that. Then when the line drops, you can get your money back by betting the other team.
That would be crazy, though.
Yeah,
Is it
would
fair-
be.
You're up
Is it
three,
fair to
you're up
say,
three
guys?
games to one. There's no way you.
they put him out there.
It's kind of like it's kind of like yesterday with Tampa. I mean, because the speculation was, well, Snell's going to start, and it's like, no, he's not. They're up 3-1. There's no way that if they lose the game, they're still up 3-2, and then they got Snell and Morton for the last 2 games. Well, the Braves have Fried and Anderson for the last 2 games if they lose tonight. The Braves are on a free roll here. Absolute free roll for Atlanta tonight. All the pressure's on the Dodgers, who have to win, and they better hope Dustin May can give them 4 or 5 innings because their bullpen is, wrong move Dave's going to bring in the wrong guy after May. I don't know who he's going. I have no idea who he's going to go to, but that speaks to what the other guys was talking about as maybe a live bet.
So the
Braves hang in
tonight, guys. Which dog are you taking if you're taking a dog? Because we've all agreed that the Dodgers are too expensive, but Dave, I think you said hey, it's too expensive, but I don't want any part of the Braves
at the price.
At the price,
no,
exactly.
At the price, there's no question I would take the Braves.
Yeah, I would agree. Brian and Matt, same thing.
Yeah, you're priced out of the Dodgers at that number. The only reason you're playing the Dodgers at that number is you're a Dodgers fan. I don't see how.
But if you're taking a dog tonight out of those 2 dogs,
Atlanta. Yeah, no,
Atlanta. Yep.
Oh, you could get the Braves run line for the same price you can get the Astros probably tonight, and then you don't even have to win. You could just lose by a run.
Yeah, definitely. And it's funny because I always say that I don't recommend doing the +1.5s, but in a scenario like this and what we've seen over the past couple of games, and with the price that we're going to be getting with that, this would probably be one that I'd be interested.
Well, no, I wouldn't, and I'll tell you why. Because it's the same story for the Dodgers as it's been all year. When they win by a lot.
Right.
If it's close, they lose. And that's what's going to happen tonight. The Dodgers are either going to blow them off the field and win 9-2 or something like that, or it's going to be a close game and they're going to find a way to blow it and Atlanta will win the game outright.
I'm going back to the well with the over.
I'm
going back to the well with it. I think that if this Dodgers team loses, they're still going to go down fighting. You can't have as many pathetic at-bats as they had last night when they're runners in scoring position. Oh my God, that ball down the middle, that was just horrible. I mean, bases juice. I can't believe they got just one. And the inning ends. Next at bat for the Braves is a solo shot home run. Only took them about 5 minutes to do what the Dodgers did in 20 minutes. Anyway, that's my little rant for the day. Matt and I will be on Prop It Up at 4 p.m. Eastern. You can grab Brian, Dave, and Mid-Major Matt is at sportsmemo.com. Dave, Brian, and I are at wagertalk.com. Guys, best of luck in college football. I hope it gets better. I hope things
I'll be spending the rest of the day looking for a few more plays that'll get postponed.
If you want to know who Dave's going to play, just find out the next COVID outbreak, and then you'll know.
Yeah, really.
If somebody's wife is out there listening to the show and they have tickets to go to the football game and they don't want to go, just call Dave. Let him know what game it is. You don't have to worry about it.
Definitely. All right, guys. Have a great weekend. Matt, I'll see you in a couple hours. Everybody, be sure to tune into our show. Prop It Up. It's been great with Andy Lang. We're doing MLB props. We were doing NBA. Obviously, that's over now, but we're going to dive into it around a 45-minute show to an hour. And we've had some success so far, Matt. So we'll get into that in a couple hours' time.
Listen,
for Brian, for Dave.
Hey, wait a minute. I want a prop bet added to the show. How many times does Andy laugh during the show? Over and under, I'm going to say 42 and a half.
I'm going to say 10 within the first minute.
There you go. That's a winner.
All right, guys.
Good luck.